consistently in 2020 during the height of the pandemic, and they throughout were able to give us the opportunity to keep training and to really have a great season in my biased opinion as I was on the team at the time. But they will continue to support us and be a part of the community going forward. So really wanted to thank them for their support and their dedication to this team and this community. But now we wanted to talk about a little recap of the team's seasons up to this point. Jake, I know I've done a lot of talking so far, so why don't you kick us off with running through a little of how Navy has gotten to this point?
Yeah, sure. So I know you mentioned briefly there was a switch in facilities for the William & Mary team. Actually, incidentally, the Naval Academy team actually had a very similar situation. Their facility was undergoing major renovations, so they had to vacate that and move all the way across campus to one of the field houses. So they got that set up in December, and now that's where they're hosting meets. Navy so far has had a pretty good season, a couple strong showings, really good start up at West Point Open for the boys. It was a great start, and then we've been consistently around that 390 mark, touching a little below it here and there. But the team's looking really good. A little bit of focus on Winter Cup for one of our freshmen. But now that that's gone and behind us, it's full focus back to the team for the rest of the season. I think we're going to see a really good meet here today, both William & Mary and Navy. Really looking forward to just a great showing from both teams and a lot of high energy out there.
Appreciate that. I did hear about the move to a new facility. I didn't get a chance to train at it, obviously, but how did the team handle that transition? It seemed like you guys kind of like totally up and moved. Did you clean out the old facility, or did you have a bunch of extra equipment that you could make it seamless?
Yeah, good question. Coach Kip was pretty adamant about being in MACD, our old facility, on Friday, and then come Monday, be in the new facility, everything set up, good to go. That's just how Coach Kip runs it. So yeah. I think it went pretty smooth. A lot of the new equipment in Halsey, which is the new field house, is new to the team. So there might have been a bit of adjustment there, but they also did bring in some of the old equipment.
Okay. That's a crazy transition overnight, huh? I guess you guys didn't really get much of a break on that over that weekend, moving everything.
No, I'm sure the team was kept pretty busy hauling stuff about a half a mile away.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Well, I know the team's competed there a couple times. For me personally, the old facility was really like another home meet. I mean, we were up there so much with you guys that it was like, oh, okay, time for the home away from home meet. So I got pretty comfortable in that old hall. It's you guys are going back to it, right? Eventually.
Yeah, the construction is slated to take a pretty long while, so we anticipate being in Halsey for probably 2 to 4 years.
Okay.
They're completely overhauling the entire building because it's one of the oldest ones on campus. Built all the way back in the 1800s. Certain things are not up to code back then, I guess.
Yeah, understandable. All right. Well, moving on to the William & Mary recap. I know we're scheduled to start here in 4 minutes. I don't know if the national anthem is going on right now. I definitely want to be respectful of that. But William & Mary started off with West Point Open as well, and it did not go as strongly as Navy's did. As Jake mentioned, they got a 362, but I will say this team is a lot of things, one of which is resilient. We have a 14-man roster, and I believe only 9 traveled to West Point, so they filled up a full 15-man roster with 9 people and filled all the sets. Luckily, some of those injuries and other areas of friction have ironed themselves out after West Point Open, and they went into 3 or 4 more weeks, all of which around similar scores, trying to figure out who best fit on the lineup. And then they took 2 weeks off and came out really strong at Ohio, I believe, taking a season high of 380, which is, simple math here, 14 points higher than their previous score. And watching that meet live, I mean, it was fantastic to see. It was like watching an entirely different team. The energy was crazy all the way throughout. I mean, like, I felt like I was there and on the floor again, even though I was 400 miles away and just watching on a screen. So I'm really hoping to see that energy keep up today. Hopefully the scores are there as well. But whatever the coach and the team did during those 2 weeks off, really helped. I texted the guys afterwards and told them it was like watching an entirely different group of people, because it was really just a night and day transition. So following that 380, they went to a double weekend, getting back-to-back 377s, which is good. Definitely brought up their NQA and pretty close to their season high too. So it's looking like it's on the up and up for William May. And talking a little bit about goals today, they're definitely going to want to try and obviously beat their season high. I mean, that's always the goal, is to show out and do the best you can every single time. But they definitely want to score higher than their NQA, which is a 4-score average. Maybe we could talk about that a little bit more later. But it's a pretty granular gymnastics specific thing. But it's very important for making NCAAs. And their 4-score average right now is at 374. So going out here, I want everyone to think about what they would need on each event to get a 374. And we'll cover a little bit about, if they're on track, how it compares to previous meets, and, where their averages are. But that is what I think the team is aiming for right now. And maybe we can even get Mike to do an interview on our YouTube channel at some point to talk about goals and going into championship season going forward. So Jake, what do you see as the goals for Navy going into this? I mean, currently right now, I believe they're in 8th for their NQA, which is fantastic. I mean, their gymnastics and their team is really, really insane this year. So given that you spent some of the preseason with them, I'd love to get your thoughts on what they're aiming to do here today.
Yeah, so I had the pleasure of being able to help out the team most of the preseason, leaving early November to head down to Florida for my training. But throughout that preseason, we really saw that development of coming back from the summer, working through kinks, seeing what happened over the summer. I mean, keeping that time away from training does stuff to the body, so getting back is always a little interesting person to person. And everybody has different availabilities of training over the summer as well. But I mean, clear and simple, cut and dry. Today, Navy's looking for I don't want to say a season high, but definitely above their NQA would be nice. I think the team's really going for a 400 today. I mean, we always wanted to be shooting for the sky, but 400 could be realistic in this Kaplan Arena. I think a lot of the team's been here many times, so just like Ian was saying, with MacD being home away from home, I think there's a lot of the same feeling going on.
Yeah, we certainly have our fair share of swapping arenas. I mean, I'm surprised there was never a time where we came up to you and then the same weekend you guys came back down to us. The coaches have put us through some crazy double weekend travels, but
Oh yeah.
I think that's an awesome goal. Looking at Road to Nationals, there's for those of you that don't know, it covers a lot of NCAA scores, and there's actually a whole lot of information on there. Looking at it now, from like team rankings to team consistency and individual consistency. So it's roadtonationals.com. And I know when I was a gymnast, I was always watching it like crazy, looking at my 4-score average, looking at teams' 4-score averages. But with combining all of Navy's top scores, you guys can go 411. Obviously not everyone's going to post a career high, but I think over 400 would be insane for you guys today. I'd love to see that. So it looks like we're doing the walkout here. William Mary coming out first, obviously because it's a home meet. I always kind of wondered if you guys had any traditions in the back before you started a walkout. I know we have our own things. We do a huddle, we do a haka, the captain's talk and whatnot. Are we doing the national anthem now?
Looks like it.
It looks like it. All right. All right. Sorry for that long pause of silence. I think it's important to respect the national anthem. I do have a question for you regarding that, Jake. I've always wanted to ask someone, but I've never had the opportunity. Why do you guys stand? I know there's a lot of different ways for military to stand at attention when the national anthem is playing. Are hands at your side specific to Navy, or is that more of like a broader military stance?
That's military wide.
Okay.
The typical attention, I don't know, stance I'd say is with your almost balled fists, almost. It's like a little different. Obviously, heels together, standing upright, um, kind of just the basics. But yeah, you'll see both Navy, Air Force, and Army all do the attention for the national anthem. And that's just because, we're in uniform in this arena. I mean, not specifically a military uniform, but, we're representing the school and the Navy as a whole. So we want to honor those traditions and, maintain proper form.
Absolutely. I appreciate you educating me. I was always curious. I always thought it was really really interesting how you guys stood, and I just wanted to take the time to recognize that. So I appreciate you, your classmates, and all the guys that came before you, and all the guys that have come after you for your service and ongoing defense of this country.
Thank you. We appreciate the support.
So what you saw right there in the center of the floor was one of those traditions I was talking about before the national anthem, and it's called the haka. It's just a chant we do. It's changed a little bit over the years, and the person in the middle has it's who are we? Everyone around says tribe. Who are we? Everyone around says tribe, and then it's I believe I forget what language chant it is, but it's a chant, and then it's just a really great way to get hyped. And the Navy has similar traditions and similar things you guys do before meets. If you wanna talk about it, or maybe it's classified. I'm not sure.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to talk about it. So we get into a huddle. Captain says a few words. Usually, coach talks to us before we head to the arena, and then captain brings it in and discusses stuff as we go, and kind of just some highlight things to focus on. And then we do what we call low and slow, loud and proud, where we have a specific chant that dates back all the way to my plebe year or freshman year, or even before that. I think they made that. So it's kind of like the last thing to get everybody fired up and really get into that mindset that it is game day and it's showtime.
Yeah, I love it. Those were always such great ways for me personally to get hyped up and to get in the mindset. And it appears Aiden is well in the mindset at this point, running through his floor set. He has always had this like crazy fast cadence. I mean, when he found out that he had 75 seconds this following year, I don't know if that rule ever went into effect, but he was like, I want to do 7 passes. I don't know what madman would ever want to do 7 passes on floor, but he has the energy for it, no doubt. Finishes there with a great 2.5. Really tries to stick it and dig in those toes, but just had just a little too upright, a little too straight-legged, and had to take a small hop. But Aiden is a great leadoff for William Mary. There's no one I'd rather have set the tone for the event. But really strong start for William Mary, and let's see if we can keep that momentum going forward.
Yeah, so first up for Navy, we got Eric Engelke out of Harino, Virginia. This is not going to be the only time you'll see Eric today. He's very good on all the events and very interchangeable. I believe he's still training all 6, and if not all 6, he's training 4 to 5 pretty repetitively. So, he's very versatile, and on the team we have what we call a utility man. So basically one tool that fits everything and can just go up anywhere and get the job done. So that's what we got here, Eric on floor. One of his probably his stronger events too. So we're looking for a really good start here. Double Arabian to open with. I know you mentioned Aiden does 7 passes. I'm pretty sure that most of the Navy guys keep to 6. I know our coaches always stressed combination passes. So we're always trying to keep the boys from getting too tired. Nice 2.5 lay there.
I don't actually know if he ever did 7. I didn't count his passes out on that one, but he wanted to. I hope someone talked him out of it, especially with the new code. I don't even know if there's like enough twisting and bounding skills unless you're, cream of the crop to do 7 passes.
Yeah, and you really will see the code influence a lot of these floor routines. They're all trying to maximize it to the absolute T. So some of the stuff you see might be a little repetitive as far as like coaching style goes and code interpretation. But I mean, each gym just still brings their own flair and their own unique characteristics to it. I think Eric's got his dismount here. Triple full, step on the landing, but good solid start for Navy. That's what we want, and that's what we expect from Eric on that first event.
Yeah, stayed on his feet. That's a hit. You gotta lead off's an important man. I mean, Eric seemed to be calm under that pressure, but I know I was always pretty worried about it. But next up, we have Christian Gulata on floor, and this is a breakout year for him. He is a senior, but he's never competed on floor until this year. Starting off with some great double flipping there. He has always been a pommel specialist before this year, and he really spent the time, but he never gave up on floor. He was training in the back. He would get his work done on pommels, and then when he was confident with what he accomplished that day, he'd go to tumble track, go to rod floor, work on his twisting, and I think when he came into William Mary, he could barely do a front full. And now he can twist, he can flip, he's got all the power in the world. And so it's been fantastic to see all that quiet work since his freshman year come together in the last year he's got and be second up. I mean, I would consider him a lock on floor at this point. He's consistent and he's going to hit. He's got a nice style about him. He was always hoping to put in some bigger skills, but he, with some injuries, I think held him back a little bit. Ending with a double full. Same thing as Aiden, really trying to dig those toes in, but unfortunately just couldn't get it. I think he took a hop there, but another really great showing from Christian Gulata. Definitely going to see him on the next event, Pommels, and then have some special senior stuff later in the broadcast for him. But you can see Aiden was on eval, starting from a 14.7, ended with a 13. Eric Engelke looks like he got a neutral deduction. I don't actually remember him stepping out of bounds, but it's kind of hard to see the far side of the floor here. But finished with a 12.35, so a mid 12 and a 13 to start off this meet. But next up we got Caleb Hickey.
Yeah, as Ian said, Caleb Hickey's up next. He's coming out of North Carolina. Teammates previously with one of the other guys on the team. Caleb has had an incredible summer, an incredible preseason. Last year, he was a freshman, so he's a sophomore this year, also known as a youngster at the Naval Academy. And, this is a really, really good year for him so far. It's a breakout year. I think last year he kept to just one event, but, he's training 3-4 now and pushing those lineups on all of them. So floor is one of his biggest come-up events. You'll see him again on parallel bars as well. That event has absolutely skyrocketed for him. So we're just really seeing the payoff for all that hard work. Nice stick on that side pass there as he moves into these presses for the transition. Really expecting a lot out of Caleb, both this year and in the coming years. He's a very strong asset to the team, and we're really glad to have him.
I mean, starting off this set was stuck double front into a whip 2.5 that looked like he could have punched out of. Do you think he's trying to do that later in the year? Because that's a triple connection that just goes crazy.
Yeah, no, I've definitely seen him put a lot of strange things together. That double Arabian right there. Over the summer, he was actually working a whip double Arabian punch half, which is absolutely preposterous.
Unbelievable.
Nobody punches out of a double Arabian.
Yeah, I've tried it certainly, but 2 turns in, I thought my knees were just gonna explode, and that would be that. To whip into it and then to punch out of it. Wow.
Yo, that's pretty much what he found out as well. He didn't end up training it too much.
Yeah, I heard the new code needed a B to a double flipping, and I was like, the only one I could maybe remotely do is that whip double Arabian, but never came to fruition.
Oh yeah.
So up next for William Mary is Malcolm Baytop. He is a junior on the team, and he is also kind of a breakout for this year. He like Christian Duada has been doing some quiet work on tumble track, rod floor, and putting some passes together. He's got great front bounding skills, as you saw in that pass. He front tucked full, I believe front full. I didn't fully catch it, but going into his group A here for which will actually get him 5/10 because it's a requirement, and you definitely got to hold that for 2 seconds. I mean, even a little shy, the judges will probably call you on it because a press is a press. At this level, you should really be able to do it and hold it without a problem. And a little bobble at the start of this set, but Malcolm has seemed to lock it in here, sticking his last two passes and I believe getting ready for his dismount. Back double full. It looked like he'd take a front step. It's not his dismount. I was wrong. I have forgotten his set, but he's definitely locked it back in after that, under rotating that double full or that double front, and ends with a 2.5. I think that's an upgrade for him. I don't believe I've seen that this year, so great time to upgrade. He might have been thinking a little bit too much about the upgraded set when he started. I know I've fallen into that habit before, but brought it back and managed to give the judges as little as possible in the rest of the set. So good on him for keeping that mental strength, and we keep it rolling into Navy's next guy.
Yeah, and that mental piece, that's huge. I mean, when you go up there and you have a mistake on that first pass, it's all too easy to just let it get in your head and let it compromise the rest of your routine. But I mean, he went out there and he absolutely nailed the last half. So we really love to see that. Mistakes happen, but letting your mistakes drag you down, that's just not good for the team, and that's not what we saw right there. So good on him, and good on William and Mary for keeping that up. Right here we got Sam Baragunta. He's a sophomore coming out of Massachusetts. I've had the pleasure of knowing him for a really long time. Very strong on this event, opening up with a 2.5, just a slight step. He's boasting a season high of 14.6 on this event, and I believe he's ranked top 25 in the country on floor. Right there, he did a combination pass with a double front to a stick. Very good. Looks like Sam is absolutely locked in today.
First non-press acro we've seen.
Yep. Yeah, he's always been a bit rocky with the presses, so he made that transition into Russians, and you'll also see that carry over into pommel horse. A little bit short on the press right there. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite him too much, but this has been a very strong floor set so far. Fun fact about Sam, one of his favorite words or adjectives, I guess, is gas, and he used that to describe a good pass, a good set, just anything good in his life is just determined to be gas. So I'm sure he's hoping this dismount's going to be gas as well. Triple full with a pretty big back step, but all in all, good set from Sam.
Yeah, seemed like he definitely had the energy for that. Probably just needs to see that landing a little bit more, but energy certainly wasn't an issue. And that was a really good call, by the way, on the Russians and him, always maybe struggling with the presses, because it certainly can't come back to bite him because he has the non-acro, which was my strategy for some time. I'm terrible at presses. I said you should be able to do it at this level, but I absolutely could not. So I totally foregoed it, and I did an endo, which you see a couple of the guys on the team doing here. I would like to think I had some influence on that, but vanity is not great. So up next for William Mary, we have Sam Lee, and he has been an absolute star this season. Starting off with a Randy and sticks it. I mean, we're starting off strong. Let's hope he can settle into the next couple passes. But he was not on floor lineup last year because we had some really deep seniors, who were locks. But he put in the work for this year. Had a bit of a mess up on that. I know that pass has caused him some troubles for this year, but I've also seen him stick it. So maybe he has to do some evaluation, maybe a mistake just happens. Every mistake is not cause for restructuring our set or making massive changes. As I think Jake said, mistakes are bound to happen. Unfortunately, as much as we all want to, you can't go a full 36 routines or 30 routines without a mistake here or there. So hopefully he can put that behind him and continue the set like he is. Looked a little shaky on that handstand as well, but he gets the split, which also gives him a non-acro, so he's not going to lose the full 5/10. Doing a back layout there for some extra tenths. I also did a back layout for a side pass, but finishes strong there with just a hop back. Seems like he's in good spirits, and I mean, it's like we were talking about earlier. It's important to be able to have a mistake happen and just not let it affect the rest of your set. I know when I was a kid, if one skill went wrong, it would not only affect my set that I was doing, but it would also affect the rest of my team. So really important to put that behind you, lean on your team to keep hitting and just keep rolling through this meet. So we're gonna hope that Will Harrington can do that for the next event or next meet.
Yeah, great point, Ian. I know in my experience personally, back in high school, you're competing for yourself, not for a team. So those mistakes tend to weigh you down a little bit more. But once you get in that team setting, it's about the team. It's not about you. So you try to do your best, but mistakes happen. You go on to support the rest of the team. Good opening pass for Connor. I think he might have stepped out of bounds there. A little bit difficult to see on that far side. This is Connor Van Loo. Nickname on the team is Leaf. There's a bit of controversy to how that nickname got started, but it's Leaf, so we can leave it at that. Very, very strong floor guy, big floor and vault guy for the team, but you'll see him on a couple other events here and there in practice. One of our all-time favorite skills right there, his side pass to the punch 1 and 3. Down to prone. The team always goes crazy. I'm sure Kaplan Arena's lighting up with the noise of that. Little bobble on that press. We see a lot of guys struggling with that press work today. I don't know if that's just, the floor or maybe it's the day, but it looks like a lot of guys are susceptible to that hit today. And I think Connor's getting ready for the end of the routine. I'm not sure if this is the dismount of the next. Nice 2.5. All right, yep, that was the dismount. Usually ends with a triple full. That might have been somewhere else in the set. But all in all, good solid routine for Connor.
I feel like you've also seen a shift in that as well. With that change in code, some guys are ending with a 2.5 because you need a D skill into a non-twisting B for connection bonus. So a 2.5 lay would get it for you, but if you do a lay somewhere else in your set, then there's no real point in connecting the 2.5. So you've seen a couple guys already here end with a 2.5. With William Mary, we have Will Harrington, a freshman on the team, and I think all that really needs to be said about Will. I haven't had the opportunity to talk with him much, except going back once or twice this year, but he is an freshman anchoring our floor lineup. I mean, this kid can fly it. You saw that double layout right there. It just looks like he's floating. Looks like someone put him on a stick and just spun him around for 2 flips. Just fantastic to watch. Into some bounding passes. Nice tucked full lay. He's trying to add some difficulty in here. And he also does a split press, but kind of uniquely, he does a middle split press. Now, a lot of gymnasts have their left leg split, their right leg split, but very few have their middle, and it is pretty unique to see even a couple times. And as I mentioned, freshman anchoring floor, he's ending with a full twisting double back. Takes a lot of difficulty. You saw a Navy guy end with an Arabian double, and just ending with a powerful double flipping skill is, in my opinion, so much tougher than ending with a twisting skill. I've tried to end with those Arabian doubles and those full ends and just nothing. So I ended up with a triple full or a double full or something along those lines. But really great set from Will, picking it back up from a bobble on the lineup, and you keep moving forward.
Yeah, so next up we got Josh Williams, who's anchoring our floor lineup. Josh is one of the best I've seen on floor and rings. This man's drive and his energy on floor is He's unmatched by anything I've ever seen. Coach will tell him to do a couple of those combination passes, like you just saw him do lay double front. He'll be limited to like 3 or 4 a day, but all of a sudden he's doing 15. I mean, that's just how Josh trains.
It looks like we had a freeze in the stream. I wonder if that's on my end or on the end of William May's Wi-Fi. I know we spent a lot of time trying to upgrade our Wi-Fi so we could get these get these streams to work, but it seems the work is not yet completed.
Yeah, so while we figure this out, I'll give just a brief overview of Josh's progression on floor. Over the summer and leading up into the preseason, he was really working on those double front flipping connecting passes. He was trying to incorporate a front layout full to a punch double front tucked, and also a front layout to a front double pike. Two extremely hard connection passes. I don't think they found their way into the set for this year, but I do know that back in October he was putting together routines with both of those in there. So very impressive. A little unfortunate that due to technical difficulties we didn't get to see that routine, but I'm sure it's going to be out on Road to Nationals as Ian was talking about earlier, where you can watch all those routines. And we'll see him again on rings, so stay tuned for that.
Awesome. Sorry about that. I don't entirely know what happened. It looked like it just needed a little refresh. But I'm glad we're going to be able to see him on rings as well, and we didn't miss the only team. I agree that it is a bummer we missed an anchor. It's always nice to watch the anchor who's supposed to have one of the biggest starts, one of the biggest scores. But maybe we can try and run that back and rewatch it. But moving on to Christian Marsh, a senior on his senior day, competing in the all-around. This score will not count for the team score. The way it works is there are 5 competitors, and all 5 scores count no matter what they are. And then the team is allowed a 6th competitor in the all-around spot, which is a way to make NCAAs and for those that like all around, but obviously can't compete all 6 events in the team lineup, it's a good way to keep training that. And a hit from Marsh there, a little bobble on the dismount. Looked like he didn't absorb the landing and bounced a little bit too high. But a hit from him, that's what he needs. He's never been a fan of floor at all, so he definitely required some convincing to keep training it. But let's go to the event summary here. And take a look at what the scores have come out, because I believe that is the full competitor. So as we take a look here, William May goes 61-7, I believe. Jay, can you confirm that for me?
Yes, we see William Mary at a 61.7 and Navy at a 64.8. So a little bit of a bobble for Navy on floor first. I know we typically like to have a little bit stronger of a showing, but I mean, first event's done, first event nerves, first event jitters, they're all out of the way now. Team can really just dial in and be themselves out here as we tackle the pommel horse, my personal favorite event.
And I would agree that Florida, I don't think started off as well for either's team as it could have, trying to approach those 4-score NQAs. But as Jake mentioned, first event jitters, some bobbles here, but you reset. You don't look at the scores. I have always been a personal thought to avoid looking at the team scores and your personal scores. I mean, take a look, do what you will, but make sure, as we've talked so much about mentality already, it's really important to not let that affect the rest of your meet. So we roll into pommels here, and as I was going to mention, it pains me to hear that pommels is one of your personal favorites. I quit pommels as fast as I possibly could. That event is way too difficult. I don't know why it's so difficult, but I was never able to get into it. So I'd love to hear what you love so much about it, because boy, oh boy.
Oh yeah, no, it's incredible. Personally for me, there's a lot of events out there that are very physically detrimental. Floor and vault are definitely one of them. Absolutely just beats on your ankles and knees and everything else. Pommel horse is pretty tough on the wrist, but I mean you can swing pommel horse for hours a day, and it's always interesting. So yeah, you really see that passion for pommel horse on the Navy team. I know the pommel guys are always happy to get over there any chance we get. We like to think that we train pommel horse a little bit more aggressive than maybe the other events because it's naturally one of the hardest events. It's very easy to fall off, and very easy to find those deductions anywhere you can. So up first we got Sam Baragunta. Sits down a little bit on the scissor in, but that's okay. He's rolling with the punches here as he goes. You'll see a couple pretty big routines from the Navy side on pommel horse, specifically in the end of the lineup with Ronan and Danny Clark. Sam finishing up with the Savato into a Magyar, hitting a bit of difficulties, but he's wrapping it up real nicely here. Oh man, so close to a good dismount. Great set other than the opening. You really see him start to open up those circles and really just work with it. Unfortunately, he came off on the wrong side of that dismount. It's going to cost him a few tenths, but the dismount shot right up there too. So, in every difficulty, there's also a bright side on it. Not too bad of a start from Sam for the first up on pommel horse. So we'll be interested to see how the next guys take it.
So, and as much as that dismount might seem like a huge deal, I think it's only like a 3/10 decrease in difficulty, right? Because you still get the full dismount credit, but am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, I believe it is still the 3/10. But if you saw him go up, he didn't hit his feet at all. It's something that he's really been working on all that preseason. A piece that I've had a little bit of influence on because that's one of the stronger sides of my pommel horse swinging was always the dismount. The perks of being a strong guy to swing pommel horse, which you don't see too often, pommel horse and rings connections. But,
so with an all-arounder up for William Mayer now, I think it's time to bring back, as we mentioned, one of the things we have planned for the show is bringing some alumni of both William & Mary and Navy. And I think I have Nate here on the line. He graduated in 2020 and was an all-arounder for all 4 years of his time here. Nate, do I have you?
I think you do. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on I would consider such short notice. So I really appreciate you coming back from being, out of school and taking the time to commentate here. How you doing?
I'm good, of course. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. So Aiden is lead off for William May, and as I mentioned, I wouldn't really have anyone else lead off. I mean, he's just so consistent. I never have a worry that something's gonna go wrong, and if something does go wrong, it's like, well, that's it's just mistakes happen. There's no need to worry, and then the next guy's gonna pick it up. But no troubles here. Works through his set really well. I know he's been trying to add some difficulty going forward, but we'll see how that score comes out for him. So Nate, as an all-arounder, how did you really focus on your training? Did you focus on the events that you were in lineup on? Did you try and split it all evenly? Like what did you really think about in structuring how you came into the gym?
I think I contributed primarily on the apparatus events for the team, so I was E-bars and rings, and I usually was in a similar spot to Aiden on pommel horse. So I focused strongly on the events where I could contribute to the team, and then I trained the other ones when I had time. Was pretty much my approach to the all-around in college.
And I think that brings back a point Jake mentioned where, when you're a young kid, every young kid trains all around and you're really kind of only competing for yourself. There's very few meets where you're in a team setting. Um, so I think that's a really strong way to think about how you break up your training. Jake, do guys on Navy, I don't know how many all arounders you guys actually have or if you have any competing today, but did do you have any insights into Navy and how they think about all around positions and training?
Yeah, absolutely. Bringing on the last half of the meet, we're actually going to bring over an all rounder from my class of 21. So I'm sure he can shed a little bit more light onto what it was like as an all rounder. Typically, our team doesn't stress the role of an all rounder too much. We're usually more focused on, you know, the team in general than like one specific person doing all that. But rarely we do get, that person that is just an absolute star on all the events and really show up and, hit these sets. And we do currently have one right now, Isaiah Drake, who's a freshman. A good amount of people do know him. He actually just competed at Winter Cup for Navy. I'm not sure he's competing this weekend. I don't think he is. Coming off of last weekend, it's not a bad idea for him to get a rest, anyways. But yeah, we'll talk to Ryan in the second half of this competition, and yeah, he should be able to explain a little bit more of that process and what it was like for him.
I'm looking forward to that. And Nate, I think Jake brings up a really good point about the impact all around has on physicality because in college a lot of people are doing 1-2 events, and if you're doing 3 events or 3 routines on each event, it's really, I would say, easy, but it's a lot easier on your body than doing multiple routines on all 6 events and competing every other weekend or every weekend on 6 events. So what really helped you in recovery, and did you ever talk to Mike and Bo about like, hey, I need to rest this weekend, like I'd rather just compete on the events that I can contribute on? Were those conversations that ever really happened?
Yeah, absolutely. People watch college meets, and I think what you realize is that they move a lot faster than junior meets. In junior meet, you've got a lot of guys, and everybody's doing all around, so they go for 3, 4, 5 hours sometimes. And the college meets are 2 hours and you're done. So it takes, you don't have quite as much time between events, so it's much more taxing to do all around. So yeah, when I was doing it, you needed 4 meets, I think, to qualify to NCAA's to have an average. So we sort of tried to be strategic and do the 4 meets we needed to do and get the scores we needed to do, but then only do the events that really contribute to the team most of the time was sort of the strategy. And there were definitely conversations with the coaches where it was like, okay, I need a recovery weekend and I'll just do 3 events or 2 events this weekend.
Yeah, that's I think something similar is even happening with Marsh right now. He started the season off with 3, 4 all around meets, just like right back to back to back, and then I think he's taken a break on the last couple meets to focus on the events he can contribute on. I might say it's gone incredibly well for him. But he this meet he is competing all around. It could be because it's a home meet and they think the scores are going to be higher, but yeah, as that generally happens. So we'll see if he can start off floor pretty well, and we'll see if he can continue that momentum through the rest of the events. We just saw a great. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
We just saw a great set from John Wendenborn, I believe. He had a little bobble in the middle there, but a fight to stay on that's clean is a lot better than a dirty fight or falling off. Managed to lock in his rhythm and finished it with some really nice flop and swing handstand. So up now for William Mary, we have Malcolm Baytop. He has been a consistent competitor on pommels for the Tribe, I believe, since his freshman year. And you can see why here. I mean, great extension, great Magyar Savato work. As Jake mentioned earlier, in the importance of the dismount, we've tried to get Malcolm to work on a swing handstand, but even with the work he's put in, he still kicks the pommels a little bit. But it's going to be a good score from him. He's clean, he's consistent, so he has been a lock for some time.
Moving
Yeah,
on
you'll see.
along, we got
Sorry, go ahead.
Ronan going up right now. Ronan's actually ranked 9th on pommel horse in the country, and also interestingly enough, 4 out of 5 of these pommel horse guys are all sophomores at the Naval Academy. So great recruited class, all good pommel swingers. And so far, Sam started out with a 12.0. Eric got a 12.8, and John Wendeborn, who just went, got a 13.1. So slowly and steadily, climbing up there on the score ladder, and looking forward to a good set from Ronan here.
Would love to see that steady climb up in scores continue. That would be awesome.
Absolutely, yeah. Ronan is a pommel horse specialist, so that means he does pommel horse for 3 hours every day at practice. And it clearly shows in his swing. I mean, his extension is beautiful. Hand placement's methodical and perfect. I mean, just the form and the skill level shown in this routine thus far has been very good, as he hits a triple Russian, rounding out the last half of this routine. And in a bit of a difficulty right there, that's going to cost Navy a fall. But all in all, it's been a very clean routine so far. So, just finish up and trust that the boys will get it back on the next few.
Always got to trust that. I mean, without that, this mentality wouldn't even be a factor. You couldn't even, it would be so difficult to recover. But having that trust in your team, I mean, it's just so essential. I remember when I was, I believe, a freshman, we really considered having, knowing that the guy after you was going to pick up the slack and hit meant that you could kind of move on from the fall. Knowing that and being able to lean on your team and the guys after you was I thought was really important.
Yeah, great ending for Ronan. I mean, really minus the fall, that was a beautiful set. Those mistakes happen. Those traveling skills are very difficult. You're traveling, forward and backwards while swinging around the pommel horse. They're just gunning it, trying to hurt you. So, we do see those things happen. It's unfortunate, but I think it's still going to pull in a pretty decent score, even with that fall.
I want to take the time now to plug the Discord chat feature. If you're watching, you can see it. It says chat above the scoreboard. We are going to be giving away a signed poster from everyone on the men's William & Mary Gymnastics team to the most active chatter, which we can check. So please get in there, say hi to us, give us some comments. We love audience interaction, and I'm going to be bringing it up again for those who come in and may not have heard it. But up right now is senior Sam Piper. It's his senior day as well. I think his second home meet ever, because he started off on the club team and for 3 years just grinded. I mean, I saw him in the gym all the time. He was always hanging out with us. He's always been part of the team, and I know he's never questioned that. But the announcement last year that he was going to get on the team, and I mean, it's just beautiful to see it. He's one of my favorite people, and like I said, when that announcement came out, I was almost brought to tears to see him get the opportunity to compete with us after supporting us and being part of the team for so many years. And I know, Nate, your class had a similar situation. It wasn't his senior year, but we're actually going to be bringing Zane on later. What was that process like for Zane to get on the team, and how did the team react?
Yeah, it was pretty similar. I mean, Zane came in as a freshman with us and competed on the club team our freshman year, and then our sophomore year was brought onto the team, and it didn't really honestly change much for us. He felt he was part of the team freshman year and just didn't compete, and then sophomore year just joined on.
And then stayed an extra year after that because COVID put a halt or cancellation on his senior year, so he actually ended up getting a master's degree from the business school and finished out a final season with the team. But for Navy right now, we have
This
Dan
is
Clark?
Danny Clark. Yep, senior on the team and a really great pommel swinger. He actually went ahead and put a pommel horse in his backyard during the COVID lockdowns, so there was no days off of training for him, and it's really showing on this routine. Very very good flop work. He was working on those sewn and bazugos, which are those single-handed spins that you were just seeing right then. Um, he did showcase the sewn, but I think he did take the bazugo out due to wrist stuff and everything. And pretty noticeable fall on that dismount. I'm not sure if he slipped off or anything else.
He was staring at his
Other than
hand
that-
like he did.
Yeah, it's difficult just because there's no way to train that out. Those are those mistakes that we were just talking about. So a couple mistakes on pommel horse for the Navy team, but that's going to be okay. Dan's going to wrap up this routine and get on with the rest of it. Very good routine up until that point, so we look forward to seeing how that routine gets cleaned up and ironed out.
And I mean, I think at this point in the season, all mistakes that happen are just uncharacteristic. I mean, in the beginning parts of the season, you got to think, okay, is that skill too difficult? Are they nervous? Do they not have the energy? But like at this point, I've always been confident in my team, and I'm sure you have been as well. Like they raise their hand, you're like, done deal, hit, no question about it. So when something like that happens, it's really just, oh man, did he slip off in the equipment? Was something off? I mean, those are hard. Those things you can't really account for. You kind of have to roll with those as they come up, and each piece of equipment is different. So it's hard to really train for that. I mean, we've done things at William Mary to try and factor in as many variables as we can. I think last year we did quiet sets. I don't know if you guys at Navy have ever done that, but like no cheering at all, music off, dead silence, super weird. But it's just one of those things to try and bring out the nerves and make you think too much even.
Yeah, no, we've definitely messed around with that quite a deal. Definitely taken it too extreme at certain points with throwing foam blocks at each other while doing horse routines. Probably wouldn't recommend it, but hindsight's 2020. But I mean, yeah, absolutely. Pommel horse is one of those events where if you're thinking about skills, they might not turn out that well. So you really got to just fall back on that training and let your muscles and muscle memory take care of business. Because if you're overanalyzing each individual part, there's just too much going on at any given point. So it's really easy to get caught up with yourself at that point. So pommel horse is one of those events that you really just got to rely on those hours spent on the event and hope that pays off on game day. Today we saw a couple of those uncharacteristic falls from Navy, so I'm sure that's going to be addressed on Monday when they get back in the gym. No cause for worry at this point of the season, but yeah, so now the boys are going to have to take it over to rings and try to get those scores back.
So the anchor for William Mary was Christian Marsh, senior on the team. As I think in a similar position to Jake, he is also a rings guy. Those were his rings, P-bars, and pommels were like his starts when he was a freshman, and really strong. So it's not always something common that you see. But we do have some special stuff as for seniors later on, which I will get to. But I have a question from the chat from Isaac. Jake, who is the Navy captain this year? I don't know the answer to that.
Navy captain is Darren Lutchman. He lives in Maryland and been a Maryland guy his whole life, and now he's going to the Naval Academy, which is just a little bit down the road for him. So I'm sure it's very fulfilling having the experience of growing up in the area and then going on to be a part of that school. And also he's early selected for submarines, so after graduation he'll be out in the submarine force learning how to operate those nuclear reactors.
the energy of the future, I'll say. So Nate, as an all-arounder coming into rotation 3, you've gone through floor and pommels generally, unless it's like championship season or something else. what are you thinking about now? Let's make the assumption that both events have gone very well. What's on your mind right now? Is it kind of blank? Are you thinking about like a skill in particular? Are you focusing on scores at this point? Like, give us the insight.
That's a good question. Rings was always kind of just like try and hold everything for enough seconds and stay tight. So that was sort of the thing, I guess, just making sure you feel good, feel light, and hold all your strength moves for more than 2 seconds.
Yeah, I mean I think that's great advice. I always thought we would count from 0, 1, 2 to make sure that there was just no question at all that you would give the judges the opportunity to call a short hold because you do a lot of them on rings. I mean, even if you have like 4 strength moves, it you get 3 seconds short hold on any of them. It's it's real quick. I mean, that's 1.2 right there. That's already more than you really want to have on a set. So, as simple as that advice is, I mean, I think at best it's sometimes best to just keep things simple.
Yeah, I think even just making sure you hold the easy stuff, the L's, the handstands, the easy stuff, because that's where they'll take tense off.
Yeah, great point, Nate. It's super easy to get caught up in those, big strength holds and making sure you're holding those. But, the small ones that you may not be thinking about where you're moving from one thing to another, the judges love taking those deductions because it's clear as day for them, even though you might not fully realize it. So, it's as much focus on the most minute details as there is on the major details, and that's just one of the challenges of this still rings event.
Yeah, agreed.
I want to table this conversation for a moment. I don't know how much time I have, but with Aiden up on rings, I want to show his senior video
Hey Christian, happy senior
for
meet. I just wanted to
Christian
say I'm so
Gulata.
proud of all the work they've been putting in the last couple of years, and I wanted to also say thank you for always being there for me and for the team, both inside and out of the gym. It's really meant a lot to me. Go Tribe.
So those were some quick words from Aiden Coy as on the event now about one of his seniors, Christian Gulata, a pommel horse specialist with a breakout on floor this year. Um, and I mean, it's really true. I told the guys to not make the videos goodbyes yet because there is a lot of season left. There's full championship season, but I really just wanted to get some first person words about how great these guys are. I had the opportunity to train with them for 3 years, and I mean, I would really just echo everything that they said. And Aiden in the spotlight, his ears must be ringing because sticks his dismount cold, and that's a pretty consistent thing for him. Again, leading off the event, just super amazing to set the tone and have everything, have that carry through the rest of the routine. Nate, I really want to thank you again for taking the time to sit with us and give us your insights into the all around. Uh, Hopefully, we can get you on in the future and maybe for longer. But as I mentioned, we're going to be bringing in one of his classmates and former captain Zane Petrus. So Nate, thanks again, my man.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So here we got Sebastian Gordon out of New Jersey. He's a freshman or a plebe on the team. Hasn't been in all of the meets so far, but he's been adhering very strongly to rings on the last few meets. So looking for a nice, clean, mean performance from him on this one. Little bit of struggle with those Yamawakis, but he's back in his groove. Right there, we see a little bit of a short hold on the L, just like we were talking about before. So it's just live proof that it is very difficult not to get caught up, in the moment with everything. But very clean routine, couple of wobbles, but he's closing in on the dismount here. Beautiful laid out half and half out. Very difficult dismount at the end of any routine, but does it very well.
And I think we're waiting for Zane here, but in the meantime, that's we were talking about it earlier. It is just so easy to forget about L seats and straddle L's, and I think it might even be, a similar comparison to a press on floor. it's just like, oh, I'm strong enough. I'll think about it. I don't have to work it. Like, and sometimes it bites you. You know, it's something you gotta like be really mindful of as you go throughout the sets.
Absolutely. In my experience, I would really try to take a moment to enjoy those positions because you spend hours and hours and hours of training, weeks, months, years, just to get out there on the floor and show off those skills. And oftentimes in the big skills, you're too wrapped up in the skill itself. So I would always try to take that moment for the easiest holds and just like kind of enjoy being where I am, and then I never had to worry about it being a short hold because a lot of times it'd be a long hold because I'm, just sitting there really enjoying the moment. So I think that's a very important thing that, I'd like to see maybe some of these guys take into action on these holds. But, so far so good. And, you like to see that sort of thing.
Now, in those long holds that you're taking a moment to breathe in, are you thinking about the next skill at all? Are you taking a breath to like maybe recover because they are an easy hold that you can take your time in?
Yeah, I definitely focused on taking 1 to 2 breaths, but most of my gymnastics was pretty mindless, I'd say, relying mainly on muscle memory and stuff. I wouldn't necessarily go over the skills themselves in my head, more like shout in my head a word or two that it really sticks to me and allows me to focus in on that skill. Whether it's like a strength hold where I'm saying like be strong, or a swing where be smooth, stuff like that kind of helped me always keep me on track on this event.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great advice, and hopefully, I believe Zane is ready, so maybe we can get him to echo some of those points and think about how he approached holds and handstands and making sure to take those extra seconds. Zane, are you with us?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I took a very similar strategy. I had it pretty easy on rings. I did, nothing harder than a flange. But I don't think by my senior year I wasn't doing a single hold that wasn't less than 3 seconds just because, like it just doesn't, you can't afford to take those 3-10 deductions, and they really stack up when you have, I mean, pretty consistently everyone's got a couple L-sits, a couple handstands, and then at least 1 or 2 other strength holds. So
Yeah, and I think on that point, this current guy, I can't see his name unfortunately, but he seemed to have held them all 3 seconds, no doubt, super high open dismount. Jake, do you have any comments?
Yeah, absolutely. That's Cash Buskey, senior on the team, and yeah, I've seen him do ring routines in practice that were, just nearly perfect. Better than the book could possibly ever do it. And that just really comes into that mindset of, be here, be now, be in the moment, hold these, and show everything off. So you saw a pretty good routine from Cash there. Very good cross, maybe even a little low, which is pretty uncommon to see. Really shows off that strength in the position.
And next up, we have Zachary Patrick, also a freshman on the team, making some lineups, making his debuts. He is I believe he also competes P-bars. And I haven't had the opportunity to talk to him like many of the freshmen, unfortunately. Definitely going to pick his brain when I go back down there for ECA season and see what he's got in the tank. But he's a strong performer so far this year. I mean, freshman nerves can really take hold sometimes. And I'm curious, Zane, when you joined the team your sophomore year, did you still have those like first meet jitters, or had you kind of been with the team and around college gymnastics long enough to where it didn't really have an impact on you?
honestly, like I don't think I stopped having the first meet jitters until well into my senior year. Like I think it was probably like right before COVID hit. 20, it was 2020. A couple meets in, I started getting really comfortable, and a lot of that probably was because Mike started putting me first in lineup for both floor and rings. So I kind of like had to like trial by fire, get used to just going. But yeah, great hit from Zach.
Yeah, sticks to dismount. Really held those handstands. Rings turned out. Arms not in the straps. Not something I could ever do. Gave up very quickly on rings. Shoulders hurt
Yeah.
too much. Back hurt too much. Mad respect to you and Jake for being able to take that through all 4 years and do it really well at that.
Yeah, Zach's probably got one of the better handstands on the team right now. Although in general they look a lot better this year in that particular strength hold than in past years. So I'm guessing Mike's been doing some handstand focused strength with them, which is good.
Jake, do you as a rings and pommel specialist, really strong yourself, what did you do to make sure those ring handstands were like L seats, just resting positions for your set?
Yeah, so part of our training was 2-minute handstands against the wall. And one of the unique things about rings, it's one of the only times you're in a handstand when your hands are not necessarily pointed in front of you, right? They're pointed back because you want to turn those rings out. So whenever we were doing those handstands on the wall, I would always try to turn my hands out to kind of mimic that same position. Because above strength, flexibility does actually play a surprising amount into those handstands. So combined with those 2-minute handstands against the wall and just 30-second handstand hold off the straps, wrist down, rings turned out, we would do those all the time, and that really paid off for me personally. I was always extremely comfortable in my handstands, and that was a great benefit to me during the lock arms that I would do in my routine. I was pretty confident being able to catch it if it was a bit over or a bit under, and that's you really see that pay out. So yeah, can't possibly understate it enough or overstate it enough. Those handstands and becoming comfortable in that handstand position is absolutely essential if you want to be a good ring swinger.
Zane, I know you definitely harped as one of the captains and event leaders on rings, handstands, and doing the work and putting that in to make sure they were rests. I'm glad to see they've kept it up with it as you moved on and graduated. But what was really your philosophy? Can you give any additional stuff on Jake's thoughts about it?
Trying to think if there's anything more to say about it. Really just once you get up into a handstand and lock out like that, it really should feel like a bit of a rest. If you're holding for longer than 10 seconds, it starts to become strenuous, but for the 3 to 5 seconds that you're up there at a time, you should be able to have a second to breathe and be comfortable. So I think one of the things I always did to grind those handstands was I did, we did a lot of handstands in like parallettes, a lot of presses for our pre-strength and stuff. I always turn my parallettes out a couple degrees, because I always found that, before I started doing that, I'd get up there and I'd be comfortable in a handstand, but it was always a struggle to get my rings fully out, get them all the way perfectly straight, perfectly parallel, or a little bit out further than that even. So I ended up, even now, like I'm more comfortable with the press on parallettes when the rings when the parallettes are, 45 degrees turned out than I am with them straight, just because I being basically a rings and floor specialist, I only did presses with my rings turned out like that. So that definitely helped me a lot.
And it seems like parallettes are the way to go. If you guys, this rings rotation has been awesome. The last 3 sets, they've been really solid and sticks. Let's talk about how that really shifts the momentum and the mentality for each team while I try and get this video back up.
I know for us, rings was always, no matter how well we did on the first 2 events, rings always turn it around. I think we always have had a pretty consistent rings squad that really started, maybe not always, but definitely started, I want to say my sophomore year, Ian, your freshman year, something like that, like 2018 or something. I don't know what. Yeah, that was always good for us. What about you, Jacob?
Yeah, I can't possibly agree with that more. I mean, opening the meet up on floor can, lead to a shaky start on some occasions, and then pommel horse is not an easy event to follow it. So I always viewed
Exactly.
rings as the gatekeeper to the last half of the meet. Our rings team always focused on being that rock in the river, I guess you could say, that just does not move and the water goes around it. And what I mean by that is like, that steady group of guys that can go up and perform time and time again, regardless of how the first two events go and regardless of anything else. So we want to see those nice, consistent, good, high scores. And sometimes mistakes will still happen. That's just part of the sport. But in general, rings is one of the more consistent events. And we just saw Darren Lutchman go up on rings. I believe the video cut out, but he did open up with a Maltese and finish with a pretty solid dismount.
This Marsh set is one that's really been interesting to see evolve. He struggled really the last 3 years to find a balance between the strength and the swing, particularly the swing being his dismount. He's been working this triple back that we all know that he's been doing for the whole season now. I mean, since he's come to William and Mary, and but doing it at the end of such a difficult set, which he can obviously do, is so hard. So he finally figured it out this year, I think, where he started off with putting in the triple, but keeping out the strength moves that he was able to do, but not effectively with the triple at the end. And now he's over rotating it, which is pretty remarkable. So
Yeah, I think last meet he did the same set and broke a 15-0 start. And the first time he did the triple was at NCAA's, which ended up getting him to finals. Second day, I think he was a little tired, didn't have the energy, and under-rotated it. But even after a double weekend and competing two events, he still, in the all-around, has the energy to over-rotate a triple. I mean, it's awesome to see his progression through the years. Also a senior, have a video coming up for him as well that I will find time to slot in. But just a really fun set to watch for him.
Yeah, so up on rings now, we got Josh Williams. He's actually ranked third in the country on this event right now, boasting a high score of 14.35. Couple unique attributes of this routine. You'll see an inverted cross. I'm not sure if anybody else in NCAA is doing an inverted cross right now, so that's unique to Josh. He finished up last year with the conviction that he needed to put it in, and we can see it right there. Done very beautifully as he flows into the rest of his set.
And Josh is a Neeson Emery finalist, right?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Very cool.
That's the first time we've had a finalist from Navy in a very long time. Not at all during my time there, so that's absolutely incredible. Josh is also selected for Naval Special Warfare right now, so I know he worked very hard for that. At times, he even had to compromise a little bit of his gymnastics training, but you don't see that anywhere in that routine. So, absolutely beautiful set from Josh. Just nothing else to say about that. I will say that Christian Marshall's routine, the triple back is absolutely incredible, but a little bit more hidden, I say, was the uprise Maltese push to straight body. I have tried that a couple of times, and I will say that is one of the hardest things that I've ever tried to do in gymnastics. I was never able to do it. I ended up just sitting there struggling, but that is absolutely impressive to be able to compete that, so good on him. It's very impressive.
And he makes it look easy too, which is just so frustrating when you're training a Maltese next to him.
Oh yeah.
And I know both of you guys, again, reiterating, great ring specialists for the most part. We were talking a little bit yesterday about philosophy on yamis and injuries and how to avoid them. So I know one of the reasons I had to give up rings was because I partially tore my rotator cuff and partially tore my labrum. It was all bad. And I think one of the main issues was yamis. So I'd love to hear how you guys kept that longevity going, even through your full 5 years for Zane.
I'll go first. I honestly, the way I was able to keep the longevity was having no real difficult strength elements. I think, so I think the one of the biggest problems with yamis is you work so hard on the strength, which tightens up your shoulders, and then you go to do the yamis, and you know that kind of the juxtaposition of the tightening from the strength and then the flexibility you need for Yamawakis really is not great for your shoulders. So I trained crosses and Malteses throughout college, prior to college, but really the only thing I could get consistently was a planche. And so I think as a result, I never had, shoulders that were tight enough to be hurt on Yamis. So I got lucky.
Yeah, Zane, it's very interesting you say that because my philosophy going through college as a rings and pommel horse guy was that you just have to do Yamawakis every single day.
Yeah.
So I trained straight body planche. I've competed straight body planche and Maltese in my routines, and those definitely secure some shoulder mobility or limit shoulder mobility. But every single day, even on light days, I would do the tuck Yamawaki and a pike Yamawaki. It was
Yeah.
my philosophy that if you do yamis every day, then your shoulders can never hurt. I guess nobody else on the team bought into it, but my shoulders were always pretty good, so maybe I was onto something after all.
I think you might be, honestly. I will say also, I think the cross strength in particular is bad in conjunction with the Yami mobility that you need. So I know that like Marsh has issues with his shoulders on Yamis. I think it's because he did a lot of cross strength growing up and a little bit into college as well. And now he's obviously focused more on the Malteses and the planges. But yeah, no, I mean that consistent flexibility and mobility of the use of your shoulders in the yamis has got to be really helpful. So you're definitely on something, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I gave up cross work, but I definitely focused more on that Maltese and planche.
Yeah.
Crosses, I figured out just really weren't for me, so kind of avoided doing those.
Yeah, they're also like barely worth it in the code even now. I mean, they've downgraded that back price planche, but otherwise planges are, I think for how much strength it requires to do a planche, it's still easier than, at least relatively, than having to do a cross. So
Yeah. Quick score update for Josh Williams on rings. He got a 14.3, so just shy of his season high, and still keeping along. So looking forward to seeing how that plays out throughout NCAA's and everything else.
I mean, can't be upset with a 14-3, even if it is just shy. What a fantastic set to watch, and what an anchor and rings guy he is. Is he a senior? He is, right?
Yes, yeah, he is.
Okay. I
Josh
feel bad for
Williams-
the anchor that has
Sorry,
to
go
fill
ahead.
his shoes.
Josh Williams beat me out by one position to go to rings finals last year at NCAA's by 0.03. But that was a bad set for him and probably the best set I ever did. So he's I'm excited to see him do really well this year.
Yeah, me too. Definitely a hard worker, and we love to see that pay off.
Yeah,
So,
really.
Again, congrats to Josh on that amazing ring set.
So I think they're still warming up. Definitely appears so. So I'm gonna take this opportunity to play another.
Many of you may know him
This
in
is
recent
from
times
Sam
as that one
Lee,
TikTok guy who can just do a
about
bunch
Christian
of
Marsh.
flips. But I know him as Christian Marsh. He is my friend, my captain, and just an inspiration. And whenever I look at his gymnastics, I'm always amazed. And I can only just think, wow, like I wish I can do that, and I want to work towards that. So it's always really cool to see him in the gym. Many of you may not know this, but a couple of his big accomplishments were he actually wrote a book, which is very cool. And he is an NCAA finalist on rings, and he's applying to law school. So Marsh, I just want to say I'm proud of you and keep it up.
Just great. I mean, having the opportunity to train with Marsh for 3 years and watching him develop from a 2-event specialist, I think, to a countable all-arounder, really was just it's a hell of a thing to see, and I couldn't be happier for all that he's accomplished. As you heard in that video, he is TikTok famous. is sponsored. I don't know if you heard this one, but is sponsored by Chicken Legs running shorts, which is crazy now that since NCAA gymnasts can make money from their appearance and image, which is very new. Kind of wish it changed back when I was a gymnast, but I can just be bitter about it. And he wrote a book that I still think he's trying to get published. So he's done a lot for the team. He's accomplished a lot of things, and I'm really excited to see him continue to thrive for the rest of the season and for whatever he chooses to do afterwards. So we're still watching the vault warm-ups here. I don't know if they're taking just a 2-minute touch on vault or if they're getting the ability to touch all events in a 6-minute window. Does anyone, Zane, do you happen to know, or Jake, if what the structure of this middle area of the meet is?
Yeah, I believe that they are doing the 6-minute last 3 event open warm-up. So that's why you see some people go to vault. There's probably a few people swinging some high bar, and I noticed a bunch of the Navy's guys go right over to the P-bars and start to mess around with that grip and get it just how they like it. So I'm pretty sure we got that 6-minute going on right here. And as you can see, they're starting to tape up the lines that they got to stay in on vault.
So taking a look at, oh, go ahead, Zane.
Well, I think they're trying to standardize that 6-minute open warm-up between. I think I don't know how they decided this, but I believe they've decided that that's faster because they're trying to do better about like televising gymnastics and increasing the audience. So most of the meets we see now have that 6-minute open warm-up, which is interesting because when we were competing, like I feel like I could count on one hand the number of times I did that. So
yeah, I think we only ever did that at Army head-to-heads, if I remember correctly. Not including West Point either, because that's a much larger meet.
Yeah.
Right. My experience was always those Army versus Navy meets. They always loved that head-to-head format. So that's the only time I think I ever saw that 6-minute open warm-up middle part.
I have my thoughts about it, but I'd love to hear what you guys think before I give my own. Do you like it more?
Personally,
do you prefer the 2-minute? Do you like no warm-up, or how do you guys like to rate it?
Personally, being a pommel horse and rings guy, I never had to worry about it. So I would always just be like helping the other guys set the bars or take the boards out or whatever. So I have no experience whatsoever as far as that goes.
I feel like we're not good people to ask because again, like being floor and rings, like I never warmed up in that second half. And like I feel like once I was warm and had warmed up rings, I didn't really need to do a 2-minute touch for rings. So, getting the touch before floor and then not having to warm up or not being able to do the 2-minute touch for rings, it really did make a difference for me. But I don't know. Ian, I feel like you definitely would have thoughts on it being, floor and then the last half stacked those 3. So
I did. I hated it. Absolutely hated it.
I'm sure you did.
I would compete floor and then maybe compete vault, but generally would compete P-bars and high bar. So it was just the worst thing in the world. I personally did not like Army duels, not because of the competition, but because of the structure, and because it was you warm up, you hit a set, you get cold, and then you have 6 minutes to get re-warm, and then essentially wait another. At one point it was 30 minutes because I was only doing high bar. So yeah, wasn't a fan of that structure at all. But I'm gonna minimize this because it blocks the run. But in the meantime, Zane, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about this and on such short notice as well. It was awesome to have you around for another year after you were supposed to graduate in 2020 and your season got cut short. So I hope to see you around on campus and even maybe get you back on one of these at some point in the near future.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's been great. I love that you guys are doing this now, that this is being set up. It's really cool to watch it with commentary, It's fun. So also love being back for an extra year. It was a good time.
I appreciate it, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, I'll be in touch, man. Bye.
So Jake, I think now if Ryan is ready, it'd be an awesome time to get him in here and talk about Navy and being an all arounder. So if he's available,
Yeah, I'd just sent him a message, and he should be ready to go.
fantastic. Well, we will up next for William May. We have John Irwin. Oh no, this is Zach Patrick. Zach again brings in vault. He has a nice clean vault in the air. He's trying to get the crowd hyped. The Yurchenkos are an interesting decision for vault entry because they generally have cleaner pre-flight form. Because on vault you can take pre-flight, on the table, off the table, and in the air. So it's a very, very quick event, but there's a lot of places that deductions can arise, and pre-flight's one of the biggest. So I feel that Yurchenko entries generally get a more consistent and cleaner, and honestly even look better.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Navy does have one person that does those Yurchenko entries, Connor Van Loo, and he's ranked 9th in the country on vault right now, so you definitely do see that payout. Right there, you saw Josh on his 3rd and final event of the day. Pretty good start for both Caleb and Sam. Sam boasting a 14.1, so good on him.
You can see, I mean, Navy here has a really strong start to their rotation. 13-9, 14-1, 14-0. I mean, just some huge scores coming out of them. Next up, we have a huge difficulty for freshman Jonathan Irwin. The only event he's competing today, starting at a 5-2, or handspring double front, and he over rotates it for the first time that I've seen in a competition. Getting hyped, camera shaking, team is ready to congratulate him. I mean, that's come a long way from when he first competed it, and just smiles all around. I mean, in no short amount of time is he gonna start putting that to his feet and being really aware of the landing. And it's been and Andrew Liubowski was the last person to compete at front handspring double front, and his was really good, but he was a little inconsistent. So hopefully John can iron that out and start to take some massive scores from a 5-2. We'll see what the judges do with that landing, but really awesome to see his development.
You guys hear me?
Yep. So that's
Yes,
Ryan
loud and
McVeigh.
clear.
Thanks for bringing me on. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us. Like I said, I know we really threw this together, so I appreciate you taking a break from all that you're doing and being here to commentate with us.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
And there goes Van Loo with the Yurchenko entry in a almost stuck double full. No, I can see why he's 9th in the country. That was just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see he really wanted that stick, so I think he actually had to throw a little bit of a chest down in order to hopes and get it, but he wasn't able to secure it on that one. Still, amazing vault, beautiful in the air and on the table.
Up next for William May, we have Aiden Coy. He's been known to stick his vault, and last meet against Springfield he did, so maybe we can see him recreate it. Just a small hop, but that again, I mean, that has come such a long way for him. He really struggled to have form in the air over last season, and we were trying to figure out, like, how do we get it better? But I mean, Aiden being such a hard worker, like, he's gonna figure it out, and clearly he has. I think he's the 2nd highest scorer for William May this season on vault. He's definitely the top point contributor given how many events he competes on. But again, great to see him really iron that out and start to really add value on vault.
We got Ryan on the line right now. We were just talking about that 6-minute middle touch, and none of us really had a great answer for it because, I mean, both myself and Zane don't do those second half events. So Ryan, what was your take on having that 6-minute break in the middle. And did you like the 2-minute touch beforehand instead?
Personally prefer the 2-minute touch before each event. When we did those 6-minute touches for like the second half of the events, it was always pretty tough to switch from like interchange between the 3 events. So especially for high bar, trying to like get your grips all set and ready and making it there before that 6 minutes ended. And I was also a little weird with the way I like to set up my grips before I actually did my high bar routine. I like to get a touch in beforehand. And you just weren't able to do that really on the 6-minute touch for all 3 of those events. That's my take on it.
Yeah, very difficult thing to adjust between the 2-minute touch some meets, and then the very next weekend you're going with a 6-minute middle touch. But I just want to comment on that vault that we saw from Nehemiah Baker. An absolutely massive front double front, nearly a stuck landing too. So I think that's probably the best I've seen him do it probably all year. So shout out to him for the hard work on vault and keeping it up, staying healthy.
2 double fronts in the same competition. I think it's such a great vault to watch. I tried it myself, and it's so difficult. But getting back to Ryan's comments on the 6-minute middle touch, as I mentioned, I'm in agreement with him. 2-minute touches to focus on that event and get warm and think about it and visualize it, I always thought was the best. I understand the point about making it go faster and making it more watchable, because that at the end of the day is really the goal. But yeah, having 6 minutes to touch 3 events it's damn near impossible in my opinion. Ryan, were you ever able? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I mean, were you ever able to touch all 3?
I think briefly. So it was always just a super big rush. I never did a super hard vault, so I think sometimes I probably wouldn't even touch vault if I was competing all around. But just going back to like the whole grips thing on high bar, like I'd have to have my tape all prepped up on my wrist so I could switch from P bars to high bars super quickly, and never wore tape on P bars, so it wasn't the best format in my opinion, but
yeah,
they do.
I know we were being asked for some scores updates. Well, you can go over vault for the time being. Neymar Baker with a 14.45 taking the top score and winning the event with his huge handspring double front. Connor Van Loon, 9th in the country, coming up second with a 14.35. And then you can see the rest of the scores on the screen here now for vault. And we will certainly do a recap of a very brief recap of each event after the meet concludes. But as we rotate here to P bars, I believe I'm going to take this opportunity to do another senior video.
Happy senior meet, tribe. Reed, I want to thank you for being a positive light on the team. Your attitude has really inspired me. I know it's helped a lot of guys out. We truly would not be the same team we are today without you. I know you're going to kill it, whatever you do after you graduate, and I can't wait to hear about it. Go Tribe.
That was junior Connor Bowman. He is a high bar specialist. We have not seen him in the meet yet, but he will be on next rotation. And I'd like to echo what he said about Reed. I mean, his energy in the gym is unmatched, and he has always really just been a fantastic teammate. Dealt with some injuries last year, but came back for a couple meets. And I'm gonna miss seeing him compete. I already miss hanging out with the kid. He's just such a good soul. But congrats to everything he's accomplished in his career, and I'm looking forward to things he can do following it. So we do have one more that I will get to, but let's jump right back into a P-bar lineup. Up first, we have Zachary Patrick, freshman on the team. Struggling a little bit with that giant, but locks it in, trying to fight on the 1 bar. Doing some nice upper bar work. into a peach support. And this, just like rings, I think it's important to note that you do have to hold your LC and your handstands for 2 seconds. If you don't, in most cases, there are some exceptions, but we're definitely not going to get into those here. And it's really easy to forget about them sometimes because, like, you're thinking about the next skill, the dismount, and you want to get to it, you want to get off the bar, you've hit a really good set, but I mean, you can very quickly lose 3/10 on that if you don't think about it.
So we see Sebastian right now working on his grip. Ryan, can you touch on how different each facility is as far as like the parallel bars go and trying to find, the grip of your liking, especially when you have to do all those events? How do you think about the grip on each different set of parallel bars?
I would always just try to make it feel like it felt back in MACD, which obviously with every new set of P bars, that can be difficult at times, but that's why you got however long in your warm-ups to sort of figure out how you're going to make that feel like home.
Awesome, yeah. And what about when you couldn't get it right, like when the time wasn't right, or maybe the parallel bars were a bit difficult to work with? Can you kind of go over like your mental process with it not being all set and you still having to go out there and put a routine together?
It can be a little nerve-wracking, getting ready for your routine, just because you may not feel completely comfortable with the bars that you're about to go to work on. But at that point, you just got to sort of trust your training and deal with the different feeling of the bars, and kind of just hope for the best, trust your training.
Yeah, awesome. For those of you out there watching who don't know, I think Ryan's one of the strongest events was definitely parallel bars. He had great underbar work, Peaches, Giants, so on and so forth. So yeah, really good getting your perspective on the grip from place to place.
I played with the grip a lot, and personally never really found one that worked consistently or that I could replicate. I mean, I would have really great P-bar workouts where things were flying, the grip was easy, I didn't have to try on it, it was working. But it was always tough for me to recreate them in a competition, and that was always a really sore spot for nerves for me. Like, I'm going into a peach handstand, like, do I have the grip? Is this gonna slip out on me? Is this Suarez gonna be good? And it was just added mental factors that I absolutely hated dealing with. So I don't know how you figured it out, but I never could.
No, I totally get that. I definitely felt like that at times.
I actually had a friend in high school that ended up going to Penn State, who I think at one point he spent an hour of practice just stripping and redoing the bars over and over and over again to try and figure it out, and just hated it. But Alex seems to have figured it out with a really nice P-bar set. I know he's been working on the peach handstand, like every skill in that set he's like had, but he's wanted to perfect, because that's just the way he trains. And I mean, just a fantastic set from him. Him coming in as a freshman to him now is just fantastic growth. I'm really excited to keep in touch with him and see where he goes his senior year, because I think if he stays healthy and he maintains his work ethic and analysis that he has about his own gymnastics, he's just going to be a force to be reckoned with. Very excited for him.
So I don't know if any of you guys have seen this, but I'm starting to notice a bit of a shift in this competition where both Floor and Pommels were somewhat rocky and a bit of a rough start. But I think both teams are really catching their groove after rings with, an amazing vault rotation for both teams. And now both teams on parallel bars doing pretty well. So right here we got Vishal, very, very good parallel bar swinger, excuse me. Does a couple unique skills that Ryan does have some experience doing, so love to get some of his thoughts on it as we go through and watch this routine.
Jake, I'd probably really agree with you. I know we mentioned the turning point of rings, and I mean, talk about commentator curse or blessing, but both teams like crush their rings rotation, and it's definitely carrying through here. Not the first time I've seen that happen either. Rings has a way of really bringing the energy back alive.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you see the momentum just pick up for both teams, and that's something that can't be understated of the momentum of a meet. Because once there is that, people aren't really concerned about the scores or like what the other team's doing. They're just out there having a good time, and that, in my opinion, is when you do the best gymnastics. I know, last year and all the years before, Ryan and myself, those meets where we like wouldn't even think that we're at a meet. We're just having a great time. Everyone's out there doing what they love. Those were the best meets, not only because of the energy was really high, but the scores would reflect that. So I think that's what we're starting to see here, and that's just an absolutely incredible thing to watch.
Ryan, I'd love to get your thoughts on what Jake just mentioned about the scores. I always thought that looking at the scores was more detrimental than it was helpful, and I only had like 2 or 3 personal scores that would come up. As you're going through as an all-arounder, like, do you look at scores to be like, is this turning out the way I wanted, or are you more on Jake's mentality where it's just you lock in, you focus, and what the scores are, because I always found that mentality to be super helpful in keeping strong throughout.
Yeah, I think most of at least the Navy gymnastics team tended to stray away from looking at scores throughout the meet, but personally I would always be watching scores. It never really had a big effect on me, and especially doing all around, like if I got a bad score somewhere, I would realize that I needed to pick it up in the events to come. So yeah, it never really had a negative impact for myself, but yeah, I just got to do whatever you got to do to perform the best you can, I guess.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I guess being an all-arounder puts it in a bit of a different perspective, thinking like, okay, had a slight mess up there, got to really focus and get it back on the next one, versus doing 1 to 2 events and then you have that mistake. You're like, oh man, like I got to get it back, like pressure's closing in. So I guess there's just different ways to look at it. Definitely none are right or wrong, but definitely an interesting perspective.
And I wanna draw some attention to the set that just occurred. Aiden Coy, one of the all-arounders for William May. P-Bars is definitely one of his stronger events. He's really consistent everywhere, but he's been pushing difficulty like crazy on P-Bars. And I believe he starts at a 5.0 now, which is always like a gymnast goal going into like coming out of high school, going into college. Like you want to break a 5.0. If you're insane, then you broke a 5.0 when you were 16. But a lot of people, it takes a lot of work to break a 5.0, and I think Aiden just has. So really, really proud of him. Starts with a really unique mount, a free hit from the side, which is kind of scary because your face is pretty much touching the bar when you jump up. I don't know if Ryan, you've ever tried that skill and can attest to how weird it is. Like it's just so different from things you train in on P-Bars.
Yeah, I never tried doing that skill. I didn't really like how your face was sitting there, like pretty much touching the P-bars. Yeah, I never really touched that. I know Isaiah, who's not competing today, that's how he mounts on his routine. He actually does it very well. So.
Yeah, and last year our teammate Travis Keller, who is not here today, obviously because of the Navy's requirements of him, but he also used to start like that, and it's a bit nerve-wracking starting like that because it's a very difficult way to mount into your already difficult routine. So definitely adds a stress level. Pretty similar to the mount that we just saw right there with Danny Clark. That front whippet, also an extremely difficult skill to start with. But Danny does it well, and he's working through this set.
Yeah, I think the whippet's always been one of my favorite skills to watch and learn. It just, when done correctly, it just looks like so good. And obviously the goal is to make everything look effortless and floaty, but for some reason that whippet always just had a look to it. And I absolutely love seeing Seth start with it. So
Yeah.
he's held it together here and keeping it strong.
Double front dismount for Danny, lands it. I've seen that go sideways many times, so you love to see the training pay off on that.
Andrew Falk saying the peach half was textbook. Yeah, totally agree. Another, just packing the difficulty on this set here, starting with a D into, I believe a peach half is an E. It may only be a D, but still, just a gorgeous routine and a gorgeous couple skills to watch there. And landing with a blind landing, which, as Jake said, can have a very quick habit of going sideways. So awesome.
So Ryan, you competed peach half and a peach. For you, what was the difference on it? Not necessarily in skill, but like, the mental side of it, and like, I guess going into that, did that ever come up?
Yeah, it's just kind of hard to pinpoint what's so different. I mean, they're two completely different skills. Like, yeah, the motion's sort of the same, but the peach half, you got to worry about the whole twisting thing, and that's it's gone sideways for me multiple times. I know you've seen me scorpion on the P bars doing a peach half. So yeah, it can be a little nerve-wracking at times, but once you get comfortable with it, it's not too bad.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of those skills where a crash will be quite the crash. There's a lot of skills in gymnastics where a fall is like not a big deal, like how to fall out of it. Peach half is a very difficult skill to work out of if it does go sideways. And I think we're going to see it again with our anchorman on P's, Darren Lutchman.
So finishing off his set here is sophomore Sam Lee. Again, with him, the growth, being a freshman, I think a lot of growth happens between freshman and sophomore year, just because you're so new to everything. It's kind of overwhelming, really, especially going into competitions. But I mean, Sam and Alec had just immediate impacts on the team, hopping into lineups. And I think a lot of times nerves got in the way for Sam because he's strong enough. He's got the cardio. I've seen him do the skills hundreds of times, if not thousands. But he needed to find the mentality in that space to where he could operate in a really efficient manner. And from that set, I mean, he's found it. P-Bars has always been a really strong event for him, but seeing him find his groove and his comfort zone is just awesome. And you heard him talk about his seniors. He really is just a great guy to have on the team, and I'm looking forward to the next 2 years for him.
Yeah, and speaking of that growth, here's Caleb Hickey on parallel bars. Again, a sophomore who had such a great summer of training, and that really leads into him doing a pretty difficult parallel bar set. You're going to see a lot of high-flying skills here, so it's all just a testament to his work over the summer.
Great fight
Again,
there.
starting out with that whippet, very fluid.
It looked like he almost casted too far back on that drop cast and then had to fight it back for the whippet. And even with that, I mean, it was textbook.
Yeah, I wonder what the judges are going to do with that, if that's any sort of rhythm break. But as you see, he's going end to end here. Might have sat down on the parallel bars a little bit there. That might cause a deduction. But he also does a double front like Danny Clark that we saw earlier. I believe he's just doing a double front, no half out or anything, so we'll see that right here.
Is he trying to add the half out this season, or?
I've seen him do it a few times. The question's more of whether or not the coaches will let him put it in. But yeah, not doing it today.
Yeah, I'm also not sure if the new code has anything to do with that, because I heard stuff saying that the half out wouldn't be valued any higher than just a normal double front. I could be wrong. I've been out of the gymnastics game for a little bit, so not quite up to date on all the newest stuff in the code.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were talking earlier about this, I believe, about the code and its coach's interpretation of the code really influencing the structure of routines. I mean, when a double front half out was an extra tenth over a double front, you saw all of the top guys doing it because it's an easier landing because it's not blind, and you're going to get a tenth for it. So I think it has implications on every event because it changes every 4 years, unfortunately. But up right now we have Christian Marsh, senior, going into he does all around on high bar. So this is the last event he contributes on for the team. Maybe a little grip slip on that peach hand. I know he's always been really concerned about grip, and we've tried to go over it, and he just never really, like me, found one he likes. However, he's a lot stronger than me, so I've always been more confident in the fact that he's going to be able to hold on. But him, like the last three competitors, finishes with a double front. Small hop forward and a blind landing. I've seen him stick that a lot, but the peach handstand short might have had him a little off his groove. But a good save, a good fight, and I mean, you couldn't ask for a more mature correction than that to stay on top of the routine.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely see the double front becoming more and more popular in the last, 8 years. I'd say before that it was very rare, but now that's moving into college gymnastics and even a bit of juniors gymnastics. They're starting to incorporate that as the younger kids get better and better.
Yeah, I was never a fan of double fronts. I don't know if Ryan, you did them, but I always stuck with my double pikes. I just thought putting a powerful front uprise at the end of a set, I genuinely did not have the energy for. And definitely a product of my own training, but to just lean back and push on the triceps for a double pike was so much easier. What did you do, Ryan?
Did a double tuck for at least most of my, I think all of my senior year, with the double pike going in and out depending on how it was during practice. I wanted to do the double front, but was kind of pushed away from that from the coaches, because I was just never really comfortable with my double pike. So I would have liked to put the double front into my routine, but never quite worked out that way. So.
And here we see Captain Diren Lutchman on parallel bars today. He also does a peach half, I believe, so we are looking forward to a big set from him today.
And before this set starts, I'd like to plug the Discord chat again. I check that during the streams, and if you have any comments about the set or the meet in general, I'd love to read them and interact with our audiences. That's the most fun about this stream.
So I don't know if anybody was able to tell, but off on the side before his routine, you could see Diren, kind of taking a moment to get in his own head mentally and prepare himself for this routine, as he often does, both in practice and in competition. Ryan, as an all-rounder, did you find that your time to, step aside and, really focus on your next routine, did you find that time was too limited because of how much, you were doing at these meets between, events, getting ready, taping up, all this and all that?
In the beginning, but as you get sort of accustomed to, sorry, there's my neighborhood's got some crazy drivers. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but yeah, as you kind of would get accustomed to competing all around, you kind of just make do with the time that you have. I would try to typically just keep myself relaxed, kind of talk with the guys, and I don't know, I guess just have fun with it, because that was the best way for me to not get nervous and then just treat it like another day of practice almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I believe Juan is ready. Ryan, I wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for joining us. I know it was short notice. Really, everyone. I know I've said that for every commentator we've had, but we really threw a lot at you guys very quickly, and I'm so happy that it went off without a hitch, and you guys were able to join us. I hope to be doing these more in the future. I would love to have you guys back because I know Navy is our closest competitor in terms of distance. So please, I'm sure I'll have Jake reaching out to you, and I'll be reaching out to you myself. But thank you truly for coming in and commentating with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a lot of fun. It was my pleasure to join in, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Yeah, thank you very
Absolutely.
much, Ryan. I'm sure I'll be seeing you one of these weekends soon.
Yeah, just got to figure one out. All right,
Oh, yeah.
I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for having me.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right, so now we have a William & Mary alumni who graduated after my freshman year. Was a real mentor to me when I first started. I feel that he kind of took me under his wing, and I was so happy that he agreed to come on here and commentate. I think is in a pretty unique position because he now co-owns a gym in Texas and coaches children. So he's influencing the upcoming generation of gymnastics, which I think it's such a cool role to be in. Juan, do we have you?
I think so. Can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear, Juan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome. Yeah, man. Absolutely. Happy to be here. Sorry, I'm
just
getting in here pretty late.
No, well, I mean, you had States. You had to, speaking of that next generation, you had to make sure they were doing everything right. How did States go?
It went awesome, man. Actually, it was one of those things where, sort of like we do in college, you train all season and for it to come together at championships. And for these guys, actually, I only had 3 level 6s, but I mean, they probably had their best meet of the year. And I think they performed their routines to the best of their capabilities, which, it's never perfect, but for them, it was a great meet. So I was, as a coach, more than happy with the results, and they also had a great time. Parents loved it. So yeah, man. And then obviously I hurried as much as I could to try and make the last bit of this meet. Caught the end of vault, saw those P-bar rotation. Really solid gymnastics so far from what I'm seeing. It's always fun competing against Navy,
I see that the Discord has had a lot of new members join. Hannah, Shay Lee, Juan, Chris, Rob, thank you so much for coming in and chatting with us. I'm really glad to hear States went well. I also have another question from the chat. Jake, what is the best routine that you think you've seen today?
I would have to say it would either be Nehemiah's vault or Josh's rings routine. Josh's rings routine was an absolutely great example of what he brings every day at practice and at the meets. So you'd love to see that, but Nehemiah, I've seen him do a lot of those vaults, and I've seen a lot go not so great, and I've seen a lot go pretty well. So I think that was a really good vault for him. Really locks in, and it's good for the confidence too, putting one of those down in a meet, because it's a very difficult landing. But final answer, Josh's ring routine.
Josh's ring routine. Okay, yeah. I mean, that was unbelievable to watch. I'd throw that up there, and I'd throw Aiden's P-bar set. I loved the 15-0 start, and I think he had the highest score for William Mary in that event. Speaking of double fronton vault, Juan, I know you trained it. I know you had to give it up because your back gave out on you. But
yeah, I competed it, man. I literally, the one that I competed, I fractured my back on. It wasn't so bad. I mean, my feet got to the ground, and obviously was in quite a bit of pain after the fact, and was out for a few months. But yeah, one of my favorite vaults to do. It just stinks that the first and only one I competed was the one that I got loose on, and it's a lot of stress going into the vertebrae when you're loose and trying to create that much heel drive. But things happen. I had a good swoop double that was fairly consistent, so can't complain too much.
He's humble. Fairly consistent is an understatement. I think he tried to stick it with confidence every time, and tried to model some of my own after that. So
as we all do, yeah. It's always the intent.
But we've gone through. Jake, do you know how to? Would you mind pronouncing Navy's last name? Mandova?
Mandava?
Ndava, yeah.
Ndava.
Vishal. Yeah, you saw there was a slight error going into the beginning of the routine. I'm not exactly sure what skill that was.
It was out of his Yami, it seemed like.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think he tried to do a Yami endo, and his foot clipped the ball on the way up, and yeah, that's unfortunate. Obviously, you hate to see something like that, but he actually nailed the set afterwards. Yeah, that's unfortunate, but handled it well after the fact, so kudos to him. Navy looks good, guys. Obviously, from what I've seen on the William Mary side as well, it's weird looking at these guys and almost not knowing any single one of them. It's weird being out of the loop. But it's also great to see the new generation of gymnastics and see where it's going and see what they can do. Hoping that, you know, the culture is still all there and everything's positive and always heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm kind of worried for how this is gonna change for me after I can't text the guys for homecoming and ask to sleep on the house couch.
Man, yeah, I was on the floor.
Not really looking forward to that day, but I got a little time before that happens.
Yeah, it's still fun, man. So you're always welcome. That's how I've experienced it. It's great. Oh,
So-
beautiful, Yamawaki.
That kip, I hated that kip. Honestly, like one of the most stressful parts of my routine. I would go Yami, kip, talk half, and I think I messed up the kip more than I messed up any of my releases. And again, I feel like it's that theme that we've been talking about those small things that just, they come around and they get you without even thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, you're coming in pretty hot into a very simple and low power skill. It's hard to manage.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, very, very good routine for Sebastian Gordon right up until the dismount. Looks like he might have gotten a little tired or something, or didn't exactly know where he was in the air, but ended up coming up a bit short. So, man, you really hate to see that after putting all those releases on the bar so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
Also, I don't know if these coaches get to watch the stream after the fact, but being in Texas right now, this is a shout out to Bo Morris. Everybody that recognizes me as a William & Mary gymnast asked me about how Bo, and if I had the chance to overlap with him, and speak incredibly highly of him, which has been a lot of fun on my end to say, like, yeah, I got to overlap with him for a year, and just a good human being that just fell in love with the sport sort of by accident, which is really awesome because it seems like Bo has also been able to touch a lot of lives here in Texas. He's a big name apparently, which I was, not really familiar with. So that's been pretty cool.
Bo seems to know some connection to everybody. It's like, oh,
Yeah, I
you
know.
met those friends? Oh yeah, that's my my mom's sister's friend's kid. It's like, what? I don't know how he does it, but yeah,
Dude.
he's such a fun guy to have in the gym. He brings a ton of energy.
Yeah, man.
Just a real personality, and he would appreciate that.
Yeah.
So up right now, we have Connor Bowman Jr. He talked about one of the seniors, and he's become somewhat of a high bar specialist. I know he's still, I believe, working vault, but assuming he remains healthy, he may try and break into that next year.
Yeah, he's working at IBM, right? After he graduates. Woo.
Yes, he is. He has an
Man.
internship last year. He has an internship this summer, and then I would assume at that point he's going to get a full-time offer.
Yeah,
from them.
I thought he maybe already did, but man, that was a huge set for him. That was
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was some corrections as well. He was training the Kovacs at one point, and I think competed it 2 or 3 times. But when I noticed he took it out, I reached out to him, and he was like, "It's just too inconsistent. I want to put them all in, but Pike Tkachev seems to be the wave right now." As again, the code tends to influence how routines are structured. Because I haven't seen a Pike Tkachev in men's gymnastics in 10 years.
Yeah. Good point.
Unless it was a bad layout. Jake, when was the last time you saw a Pike Tkachev on iBar?
Yeah, see what's the word I'm looking for here? Whenever you try to do a Pike Tkachev in a routine, that's pretty rare.
Yeah.
You see a lot of
Intentionally.
the laid out Tkachevs go poorly, and then Pike Tkachev is the outcome of that poorly executed skill. But I don't know if I've ever seen a purposeful Pike Tkachev.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah, that's tough. I believe that's Sam Baragunta on the bar right now. Didn't make the giant after the Kovacs. Looks like he caught a little too short. So
Yeah.
difficult
Kovacs was
situation
huge
to be in.
though. That thing had some height on it. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, and that is a new skill for him this year. Spent all summer working on it, and glad to see it in the set. But you hate to see it come up short like that. Just the dismount left here.
Yeah, he'll work the kinks out though. You can tell that thing was flying.
Yeah, and every bounce of a bar is different, and the age of it, the cables. I know Navy may have changed, but the last time I think I was in person in Navy, the bar was so loose that I had to spend most of warm up just changing my Tkachev tap. Because since then I've just decided to tighten the bar. But I remember at one point going to Navy and just really struggling to understand the bounce of y'all's bar. So you could be seeing some of that here because it was so up and down. That likely means that he tapped just a little bit early. And on a looser bar, that would be a perfect time to tap. But I think the team at William A likes their bar a little bit tighter, so that could be part of the reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never competed high bar. I hardly even trained it in college. Anytime I went to high bar, it was just to mess around and throw something in the pit. But I will say I've always had a preference for a much tighter bar.
Yeah.
Even though it never really mattered for me.
Yeah. I definitely share that sentiment, by the way.
So where'd you get stuck, Jake? What part or progression in high bar were you like, all right, this isn't for me anymore?
It was probably the entire event of high bar. Struggled with releases a lot. Never really had a Tkachev. I've caught it a bunch of times, but never really had it. Dismounts never worked out for me. I had a horrible full in that was tucked. So as you can see, that's why I gave it up. Is pretty much as soon as I got to college.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I understand.
Stronger events.
Yeah. I'd never understood high bar guys. It's just it's scary. For me, the idea of banging off haunted me every single time I even touched the event or went near it. So, huge praise for the guys who, zero without any hesitation will throw a Tkachev, a Kovacs, and be comfortable. But then again, I can say the same thing about floor, man. That's where I was most comfortable all the time, and I'm sure some people thought the same thing about me trying just about any skill in the book on floor as well.
Any combination or skill under the sun, yeah. I do want to make one correction about Marsh. I didn't know he would be in lineup for high bar, so I misspoke earlier. But he seems to have been on the team score, so it'll be interesting to see what he comes out with. Not the most difficult set, but super clean. And we've had guys make it to NCAA's on not super difficult, but insanely clean sets.
Yep.
And there we go. We see a Pike Tkachev again. It seems like every team is on that boat these days.
Yeah, beautiful talk half.
The Flying Giant.
Classic. And, oh, man. What a dismount.
Very good routine for Caleb.
Yeah, gorgeous. And
everything was put right where he wants it. That talk is just a beautiful example of that attention to detail. A very difficult skill to put in those 15-degree rules, but from this angle at least, it looks like that came out pretty well. Just well done, Caleb. Very well executed.
Yeah.
And that is, I think that's really huge and really difficult to do. Caleb, I don't think I've ever spoken with him, but just based on what occurred, I would call him incredibly confident in his gymnastics and incredibly mentally strong, because to have two people in front of you miss and then hit that with such great execution and such a difficult set, that was fantastic to watch, truly. So Aiden starting off with a little bit of a weird release. I think he worked it way back in the day, but it was. I'm not a huge fan of it, but he does it well and he does it clean, so I can't complain too much.
Oof. Big straddle to Tkachev there.
Yeah, he had
That's
the
nice.
layout in at one point, but
Yeah.
since removed it, since I think it's worth the same as a pike, or a pike might just be easier. But he's put a lot of work into his releases on high bar as well, and it shows there. He was the leadoff guy on high bar originally, which generally is one of the lower difficulty starts, someone who's really consistent. But now he's deep in the lineup. He's got high difficulty, and people love watching his set, including myself.
Wrapping it up here for the Navy team is Cash Butsky. We saw him on rings, but this is a very comfortable seat for him, finishing up the meet. I can't even count how many times that he's been the last guy up in the last event. He trains for it all the time too, because as you saw, it's been quite a long time since rings, and still a long time since that touch that he did. So I mean, this is where a lot of that training comes into play. Getting warm for those touches, then getting cold again, and then just being able to go out there and compete your set comfortably. And I think that's one of the things that Cash does very well, and hopefully we'll see that come to light on this high bar routine.
And as the judges evaluate Aiden and we wait for Cash to get going, we have Nakaya Mafan. Have you guys ever had more trouble with simple skills than more difficult ones? And I personally think the answer to that is yes. More so in like a competition and routine setting than like a training setting, because you're never like really hammering in simple skills like kips and stuff. But when you're doing a set, those simple skills can definitely just come up and sneak behind you and really cause some errors in a set that you wouldn't otherwise anticipate.
Yeah, that typically is kind of like your breath, and then your brain starts screaming, "Don't mess this up."
Yeah.
And then guess what? Got in your own head.
And speaking of big skills,
nice.
I mean, Cash coming in here with a Casina, a Kovacs, a gorgeous Yami.
man.
Yeah,
Up in the ante.
answer that question again, I think that definitely is true. I mean, I worked flops before I was, comfortably able to do a step up on pommel horse from the leather. So there might have been a little bit of backwards training going on there, but that weirdness definitely does come in with the comfortability aspect of it.
For sure. Man, what a set.
That was beyond the insane skills he was doing, and I've seen him do those live. It is a real treat. We had a guy on our team do a Casina as well, and it's just an unbelievable skill. But he had a very interesting balk on his dismount there. It looked like he went to tap, didn't like it, and then re-tapped, which is really freaky to do for one, but it also shows a lot of composure to be like, I don't like this, I'm going to do it again. A lot of guys, I think, would just let go and maybe under-rotate, but Cash, even after those hitting such a difficult set and wanting to get off the bar, took that extra second and made his dismount work, and it seemed to do very well for him. So
that's an anchor for you, handling the situation. That's awesome.
It looks like he's score.
I can weigh in a little bit on that. I was with them up until November, as I think I already said. But I do remember Cash spending a lot of time every practice just ironing out every single detail about those dismounts. And you can really see that show right there, because when something like that happens, like a mental balk on a dismount, it's very easy to not know where to go from there. It's a complete systems failure, and sometimes you can just shut down. But as you can see right there, he fell right back on his training, trusted himself to get the job done, and executed a really nice dismount after that. So, shout out to Cash for that hard work.
Great anchor for Navy, and the anchor for William Mary is Sam Lee, with some really awesome Tkachev work. And I wanna draw some specific attention to that right there. Sweet double. He's stuck it 3 or 4 times at this point. Getting really excited for that, as he very well should. I would think that's going to be William Mayer's high score for high bar. And drawing attention to his quast, which he's had some trouble with. I remember him working that at the end of last year, and I was like, there's just no way he's going to get it. It's such a weird skill. But I would love that I stand corrected. I'm glad he was able to iron it out and get it really well in that set. So a lot of ups and downs in this competition. It started, I think, pretty rough for both teams on floor and pommels. We made it to rings and just saw a total shift. Juan, did you get a chance to watch the rings rotation, or did you come?
No, man.
Yeah.
It seems like so I watched the post turnaround of the meet because everything I saw was actually pretty great, and I missed those first two events and caught the last half of vault. Missed the first three. Everything that I've seen looked pretty great up to this point.
Yeah,
So-
rings was just an insane turning point for both teams. I think they sticks were flying, the routines were fantastic, and then you saw vault. I think everyone hit except for maybe one person. And then I think that really rolled into P-bars with some bobbles. And then high bar is just high bar. Like we were talking about earlier in this broadcast, weird things can happen. And on the last event, where there's very little margin for error, I would say maybe like the smallest margin for error of most of the events, like things can go wrong. And they do, but clearly both teams have reached a point where they can lean on the guy after them and know that they're going to hit. So I'd love to get your thoughts into both of you guys into how that progression of the meet went and turning things around towards the end.
Personally, so from what I saw, it seems like once that momentum shifted, it just continued on both sides. That was awesome. And man, one of the coolest things and experiences and things that I missed the most about being part of a collegiate team was just that electric energy that comes from both teams, cheering on their guys that is up on the event, especially after a hit routine, and having that energy transfer from one athlete to the next, especially if both teams are doing well. That is one of the, you only need both teams in the arena, and that's going to be the loudest arena, just in general. And it's an incredible feeling. And if people are listening to this and never have gone to a gymnastics meet, a collegiate gymnastics meet at least, I highly recommend it, just to see the surge of energy that comes out when a team has a good rotation, and how that can shift the mentality of an entire team for the rest of the meet. It is a really cool experience and really cool feeling to experience personally, but I'm sure it's quite entertaining to see it from the outside in as well. It is a really cool experience.
I'm not sure if that was Juan. I totally agree. We had someone in chat ask what I missed most about being a tribe gymnast, and I don't think I could have said it better myself. Just a collegiate gymnast in general. Some of the best moments and best memories in my life. Jake, do you have one moment that when someone asks you about your college career that sticks out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that the remaining members of the team can attest to this in full confidence as well. It was the 2019 year and the Army-Navy meet up at West Point. The Army-Navy rivalry is incredibly huge, and it goes back since the creation of both schools. And, at the end of the day, every single year, our goal is to beat Army, amongst other things, right? That does not change. Other goals may change depending on how the team's doing. Maybe we're shooting for top 10 NCAAs, or maybe even just make NCAAs. But beat Army does not change. And I remember going into the final two rotations down by about 3.5 points. Pretty uncomfortable position to be in, especially at that sort of meet. And we gutted through it. We stuck to our guns. We kept being us, and we were able to walk out there victorious at the end of the meet. So I think that was one of the most rewarding and incredible experiences I've ever had in college gymnastics, short of NCAAs.
Yeah, man,
All
being
really
down
good
3 points,
boys were
that's
amazing.
crazy. That you guys must have had an incredible last two events. That is awesome.
Yeah, P bars and high bar were our weakest events that year, and I don't know what happened, but the boys came alive and we got it done. Routine after routine was like season high after season high, and they just got after it and killed it. So
Yeah.
it was an
Yeah.
amazing time, and thinking back on that memory brings chills to me even now.
Man, yeah, that's awesome. Also, as far as team scores go, seems like the team stuck true to sort of what they've been doing recently throughout the season. 381 for the tribe and 389 for Navy. That's pretty good. Solid.
Yeah, I'd say even with the rough start on floor and pommel horse,
Right.
William May stuck to their job. They reset when they had mistakes, and they really came out here and did what they had to do. This is a season high for them, so that's going to bump up their NQA as we go into championship season. It gives them a smaller drop because the highest score for your NQA gets dropped for conference championship. So the bigger gap between your first score and your second score, the more impact it has. And now William May has a 381 and a 380. So I think this was a great day for William May, even with some of the hiccups here and there. But that's just how gymnastics goes, and we love to see it.
Yeah, and part of me being out of the loop here, but conferences always took place right around the beginning of April. Is that staying true, and they still do that?
April 2nd.
All right, so they don't
It's
have that many
here.
meets left, so
No, they do not. It was
crank
good
it up.
timing. If you guys will indulge me one more time, we had so much content that I have yet to play the final senior video, and I think it's a great way as one of the ending pieces of the meet.
Many of you may know
Let
him.
me see.
Happy senior meet, tribe.
Sam
There
Piper,
it is.
Pipes, our very own Danny Rojas. I wanted to celebrate how much of a great friend and teammate you've been this year and say thank you for being a patient and compassionate mentor and confidant. By being both a senior and a freshman, you've not only inspired us out of the gate with your dedication, but also taught the team a lot with your optimism, focus, and resilience working pommels day in and day out. Every day, your love for the sport, the team, and of course, punk rock is radiant and infectious. You show us all how important it is to smell the roses once in a while. And of course, thanks for just being a cool guy, whether you're switching up the badoom bang bang, or telling us about ornithology lab, or explaining how in the world you do both biology and government. It's been a great year with you, bro. I'm looking forward to us finishing the season strong. Pommels is life.
So there were some inside jokes in there that I missed, and I said my piece already about Sam, but echoing again everything Alex said. And Jake, I want to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit about Navy's meet, as you are definitely the best person to do it. Do you think 389 was more so in the cards since Isaiah Drake wasn't competing today? I didn't realize that one of your top guys wasn't in lineup.
Yeah, so we had a couple of guys not compete today. Alex Brown, which is a huge player on rings and parallel bars, was also not in. So him and Isaiah Drake are definitely going to add a little bit more to the score. But I think the boys did really well. There was definitely some highs, but there was a lot of mistakes that need to be fixed, going into, the last part of season. What jumps out to me instantly is 2 falls on horse from 2 of the higher start values on the team as well. Pretty uncharacteristic falls and pretty uncalled for, I guess. More of like an accidental fall. So there's no faults in that, but we really like to see that get cleaned up. And then, a couple other things here and there. But for the most part, good meet for the guys. A lot of experience out there for the younger class. Looking through the lineups, I mean, they're very young. Take high bar, for example. There was 2 freshmen, 2 sophomores, and then a senior. So the lineups tend to be pretty young. So it gives a lot of hope for this team in the future moving forward. Yeah, I mean, once we get the rest of the guys in, I'm sure the team will be steamrolling right down the way they want to be.
Right
But
towards that
good
400.
day for the boys and great meet for William and Mary.
Yeah, Jake, thank you for commentating. Juan, thank you for joining us. I appreciate everyone in the YouTube stream and the Discord and that joined the Verdia stream. I will be doing, along with Judah Wolf, a post game of this meet some point soon that will be going up on the YouTube. I greatly appreciate everyone that tuned in, that commentated. I hope to be doing more of this soon. And I think that's all from us. Thank you again, and we hope you enjoyed.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ian. Appreciate you. And Jake, hey, great to catch up a little bit, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Take care and everything
Yeah.
you do, and good luck with the gym and those boys that you're bringing up.
Heck yeah, man. I appreciate that a lot. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.